Every investor wants to make money, right? Of course. One of the best ways to do so is to buy low and sell high. That's likely why investors are interested in buying silver right now. Prices are low, and the potential upside could be very high. While we all hope that prices will rise over the long term, price movements in the short and medium term can be worrisome. Understanding why silver prices move can go a long way in putting those worries to bed. So, what you're about to learn will give you the knowledge and confidence you need to become a silver investor, and we'll even show you how to get started. It all begins with understanding the drivers of silver demand. What I'm about to tell you may be a little surprising. Like any other good, the silver price is subject to the laws of supply and demand. Right now, investment demand for silver is really driving the silver market. Demand for physical metal has become so massive that warehouse stocks of silver are quickly being depleted. In fact, the U.S. Mint in early 2022 had to suspend production of some silver coins due to being unable to acquire enough silver to mint them, and various other mints are having a tough time keeping up with the growing demand for physical silver coins and bars. But it's also not just a minting issue. Another factor is in play as well. Silver is also cheaper than gold, which makes it more attractive to buyers who are just starting out in precious metals or who want to make smaller purchases of precious metals. But it's important to remember that the spot price of silver isn't necessarily the market price you're going to pay for silver. In fact, investing in physical silver could cost you quite a bit. Here's why. Because of growing silver demand, premiums on silver products have grown significantly. 20 years ago, you might have expected to pay a 5 to 10% premium for junk silver coins, for instance. Today, those premiums have grown to 100% or more, and premiums on other silver coin products can often be even higher. As the economy continues to move towards recession, not only could the spot price of silver increase, but so could its market price. Exchange-traded funds are another popular method that some investors use to gain exposure to the silver market. But the disadvantages of ETFs are many. Listen up to make sure you're not losing out. Most importantly, owning shares in an ETF doesn't give you ownership of any physical silver, nor can you convert your shares into silver. It's also been questioned whether or not ETFs actually hold the amount of silver they claim they do, or whether the silver they claim to hold is otherwise encumbered. Regardless, the buying and selling of ETFs have a significant impact on the silver price. In normal times, roughly half of silver demand comes from industry, but things have been far from normal. We're going to cover how the silver market is changing. One of the major uses of silver was in photographic film, but with the demise of film cameras, industrial silver demand fell on hard times, leading to a slump in silver prices. New uses for silver have revived industrial demand, and new technologies such as solar cells and electric car batteries could be a source of growing silver demand in the future. Do you think solar and electric needs will grow, driving up the price of silver? Let's dive deeper. Jewelry demand is often overlooked, but is also a driver of silver demand and price. In any given year, roughly 20% of silver demand comes from the jewelry industry, a figure that stays relatively stable over time. Silverware is another small but stable source of silver demand, making up roughly 5 to 6% of silver demand each year. So, if you think the demand side of silver is looking strong, just wait until you hear what's happening on the supply side. There are two primary sources of silver supply: silver mining and silver recycling. Silver mining is the dominant source of silver supply, making up 80% or more in any given year. Silver is often not a primary mined metal, but is instead found as a secondary metal at copper, nickel, or lead mines. That means that if demand for those base metal falls and mining activity drops, the production of silver could be negatively affected. This could easily boost the price in the future. But what about the other side of supply? Silver recycling makes up the other 20% of supply. At this point, there are no indications that silver recycling will increase significantly in any way, especially because one growing use of silver is in photovoltaic cells and solar panels. How do you think the lack of recycling will affect silver moving forward? Now, let's talk about the long-term trends in silver. This is critical for your decision to either buy or sell, and I think you'll be impressed with what you're about to learn. Silver demand is expected to exceed silver supply for the second consecutive year. If that trend continues into the future, silver demand and the silver price could both grow. But there are two areas of silver demand in particular that could see the strongest growth. The first is photovoltaic use. Silver is vital to the production of photovoltaic cells in solar panels. As green energy becomes more popular, and in many areas even becomes mandatory, silver demand for photovoltaics has more than doubled since 2015 and has grown over 25% over the past 2 years. If that kind of growth continues over the next decade, silver demand from the solar industry could end up becoming one of the most important, if not the most important, source of industrial silver demand. If you think solar energy is going to be important in the future, you're going to want to keep listening. Right now, demand for solar panels is expected to triple over the next 5 years, which should provide a boost to silver demand and a corresponding upward pressure on the silver price. The second driver of silver demand is the automotive industry. If you've ever heard of someone buying a Tesla, you're going to want to hear this. While silver is already used in various parts of internal combustion engine cars, electric cars use far more silver, up to 1 to 2 ounces per car. While that may not sound like a lot, when you consider how many cars are produced each year, that adds up. As electric vehicles become adopted in greater numbers, and especially as governments force their adoption through various policies, silver demand from the automotive industry should increase significantly. So, the long-term trends for demands looks promising. What about the supply? This is where things get interesting. Long-term silver supply is difficult to forecast and has a tendency to be cyclical. But with the prospect of reduced demand for base metals like copper, lead, nickel, and others due to a potential recession, the supply of silver could be severely limited. Here's why. Since a lot of silver production comes as a secondary effect of mining for these base metals, reduced mining of these base metals could lead to reduced mine production of silver. The longer the next recession lasts, the more likely it is that silver production from these sources will fall, which will likely cause the price to go up. This is the important part. Silver recycling is unlikely to make up for this, as one of the main uses for silver today is photovoltaic cells, which are unlikely to be recycled. While solar panels can be recycled because they are often required to be handled like hazardous waste, the cost of recycling them isn't worth the effort. So every ounce of silver that goes into the production of solar panels, which is nearly 130 million ounces every year right now, is an ounce of silver that will likely no longer be available for future use. It's as good as lost and will require either increased production from mines or increased recycling from other sources to meet demand. So what does that mean as an investor? Given the long history of silver as a monetary metal, a safe haven asset, and an inflation hedge, it seems safe to say that the silver price in the future will likely be higher than it is today. Will it be higher 5, 10, or 20 years from now? Or whenever you decide to divest yourself of your silver holdings? That's a tough question to answer. But everything is lining up right now to drive the silver price higher in the near term. If silver performs during the coming recession as it did during the 2008 recession, there's reason to believe that silver could make great gains over the next 1 to 5 years and beyond. If demand for silver from the photovoltaic industry continues to rise, that could provide steady industrial demand for silver that could push the silver price higher for some time to come. So, what should you do with this information? If you're in the market to buy silver and you'd like to potentially diversify your portfolio with a precious metal with good fundamentals, Goldco is the place to do it. With over $1 billion in gold and silver placements, Goldco has helped thousands of customers benefit from investing in precious metals. Our experts can help you navigate the silver purchase process today, whether you're looking to start a silver IRA or just looking to buy silver coins to store at home. With our years of experience and dedication to customer service, you'll be hard-pressed to find another company that treats you as well as Goldco. Give us a call or visit us at goldco.com.